Alright, so what we're going to do in this video is we're going to talk about indirect addressing. Now this environment is going to be version 32, and what we've done so far is we've started building some stuff out. You know, we've built our traffic light AOI, and we built basically our tank level stuff and stuff like that. Now we're going to get into basically get into the indirect addressing, and I want to actually talk about this a little bit because I'm going to build this here live. And I'm going to come in here and actually do a couple examples of this. Now, first and foremost, what you kind of need to know is indirect addressing. We're going to use a move, and in this instance, what we're going to do is we're going to show you. Basically, we're going to make a DINT of 50, which is going to be our array, right? We're going to have an array of data, right? So think about it like this: we're going to have an array of data. And then we're going to have each one of these is going to go down to the outcome, right, or the current value, if you would, right? And that's going to be a DINT, right? It's going to be a DINT, right? So this is going to be a DINT, and that's going to be 50 DINTs, right? So every indirect address that this current value points to is going to point to, you know, if it's a value of 0, it's going to point to 0. If it's a value of 1, it's going to point to 1. If it's a value of 2, it's going to point to 2. And that's going to be in this array. And I'm going to show you this as I build it. So first, what we're going to do is we're going to make, and we're going to call this states, right? We're going to call this, we'll call this state. We'll call this state machine. And then what we're going to do is we're going to call this DINTs, and we're going to call this 50, and then we're going to make 50 DINTs, right? So we're going to come in here and we're going to make another one. Now I'm going to actually make this in here, and then I'm going to move it. Okay, this is going to be the current state, or actually requested state. And this is going to be a DINT of 1, right? So we're going to have an array of 1. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this and we're going to put that right in this section up here. So we're going to actually put brackets around it, put it in there, close brackets, right? And then that way it'll look like that. Now we're going to change this and we're going to get rid of it. We just use that for a placeholder real quick. And then we're going to put, this is the actual state. So we'll call this actual state. And this is going to be a DINT, okay? So then what we'll go ahead and do is we'll go ahead and close that out. Now everything that's inside of here, the requested state, if you would, is going to refer to one of these DINTs inside of this, right? So if you can think about that, so let's just grab these names as we did. So we grab these, come in here, and we'll come in here and place these right here. So this is the current value, is what we're going to call the requested state, and the state machine, right? So we're going to call that the array right here. So this would be a DINT of, right? So this is that value. So think about it just like that. So it would be, and this is a DINT, right? But this would be the value of that, right? And I'm going to actually show you this. I'm going to actually populate these and show you that it points to that outcome. Now our actual is what's going to be the destination that we get. Okay, so if we think about this, this is going to be, again, this is going to be the same thing. So this would be all the way down to 50. So it will have 0 all the way down to actually like 49, because again it's 50. So we're going to have 0 to 49 of the state machine array. Okay, now let's put another indicator in here, and we're going to do a move, and then we're going to put this requested state we're going to grab the requested state, and I'm going to show you this. I'm going to show you, we're going to move that into here. So that this way we can basically change the state with however we want to. And we're going to call this temporary move, just for the sake of what we're doing. Okay. Now we're going to close this out. Now I want to show you that if I put a value in here, it will change here. Okay. But there's nothing going on here yet because we haven't populated that. So let me show you this. So if I go right here and go to monitor state machine, which is going to be monitoring that actual DINT, right, the array. If we look at this, okay, so if we put a value of 0 in, it's going to point here. 1 is going to point here. 2 is going to point here. 3 is going to point here. For this value, let's just say, for instance, we want to put let's just put the DINTs in here. Let's put 0. Let's do 1. Let's do 2. Let's do 4. Let's do 8. Let's do 16. Let's do 32. Let's do 64. Let's do 128. And you can see we're starting to get in here, right? So let's just do, so we have 0 through 8 right now. And I'm going to come back in here and I'm going to point this. So now if I go 2, it's going to come in and put 2. Okay. If I go 4, it's going to come in and do an 8. Okay, so 4 would be 8. If I do a 6, it's going to come in and do 32. If I do an 8, it's going to come in and do 128. So what's happening is in the requested state, it's calling for a different point. So just like we talked about here, in the requested state, that's going to be indirectly calling for this. So in our instance right now, I can put this in here just as simple as we have it. As simple as we have this right now, right here, what we're going to do is we'll just change these right quick so you can see a more visual state of what we're doing. All right, so that's 7 and that's 8. So if I put in a value of 8 here, it's going to point to this one, right? If I put a value of 7 here, it's going to point to here. So just like if I do here, 7, it's going to point to 7. If I do 2, it's going to point to 2. If I do 1, it's going to point to 1. Okay, now if I do, let's just say 49, it's going to point to 49, which currently 49 has nothing in it. So if we go to 49 and we go into 49 and we look at it, so if we were to change this value to say something like, I don't know, 384, let's just put a random number in there. So you can see that changes because it's pointing to that actual spot, right? So how would we use this in natural function, right? So I know that is a solid question because indirect addressing is used for many different things, right? Anything from recipes to state machines to different fault handling, maybe different things to call out different different spectrums of an actual program, right? You can use this in many different program atmospheres, right? I like to personally use this as a state machine, so what I would do is I would come in here and I would come in here and do this. I would do 0, 1, 2, 3. I'm just going to do this real simple. 4, 5, 6, and again, so 7, and we'll do 8, and this would be 9. We probably don't need this many, but I'm just going to go ahead and fill it out anyway. 10, this would be 12. So come back and put 12 right here. We'll do 13 and 14. Okay. So we'll do that. And we have that in there now, right? So now we can actually come in here and put values in here. So now we can actually add rungs and do multiple things we want to do. right? We can easily come in here and put state 1 does this, state 1, state 2 does this, or whatever the case may be, right? So we can actually come in here and look at this as this actual state. So in this case, we come in here and drag this down here, and we can do actual state, and we can do actual state of, and then we can do 1, 2, 3, and you can change different things. Now, what I would prefer to do in my case is I would come in here and do a move, or do a compare. And in this compare, what I would do is I'll say equal to. So I'll say equal to, this would be like 1, for instance. And this would copy, and I would paste this, and this would be 2. And this would copy and paste this, and this would be 3. And then I would keep doing that, right? I would just come in every instance, I would keep populating this, and then I would have that for that matter. And then you can come over here and throw a state over here that says whatever, like say state 1 active or whatever the case may be, or even do servo controls, right? Naturally, if you've seen me do servo controls in the past, that's what I would do. Now, in the instance of what we're doing, we can't actually show that, right? We can come in here and do that because I do have my servo rack flashed up to version 32, right? So we do have everything actually active. So what we can do is we can actually add some of this stuff in here. So what we can do is come over here and spread this out so we can see a little bit more about the motion controls, because again, when it comes down to it, you want to have as much as you possibly can over here. Now again, this is motion state. I like to cut my motion off first, all right, and then I would cut my motion on, and then I would come over here, and after my motion is on, then I would do a, so let's just say for instance we can do a jog, and then we'll do a stop, right? And then we'll come back, and then so for real simple illustrations, right? So we're not going to actually do anything elaborate, but we'll call this motion controls, right? So we'll do that, and then we'll call this generic axis, right? What we're going to do is we're going to call this, come out here and actually do motion. So so motion, and then motion instruction, and then come in here and we'll do, I don't know, we'll do like 10 of these just in case. And that way we'll just populate that as, this is just, and we want to throw our axis in here. So let's actually copy this, move this in here. Change, we want to put that in the instruction. Let's put that in here, paste that in there. And let's call this 1, or we'll pick 0 for that matter. And actually let's just keep it lined up with the actual state. And then we'll do mode 2, and then we'll do 3. And what I'm going to do is just fill these out real quick, and then we'll get some motion going on our actual motion controller, right? So then we'll do that. So we'll come in here and pick our axis now, which our axis is our trainer servo. We already have put in, right? We flashed everything up, we did everything, we've got everything going, and now we're actually getting to the point where we're going to do a little bit of understanding how this indirect addressing could be practical in a natural environment. So direction, we'll call it 0. Speed, we'll put a let's put it at 3. Come in here, we'll do units per second. Acceleration rate, let's just keep that at just a trapezoid natural is like, I don't know, 1000 pretty much. Keep that right there. Decel, about like that. Decel units, again, keep that units per second. So keep it trapezoid, and then we'll do a 10 for jerk, 10, and then keep it squared, and then make sure we don't want to merge, we don't want to speed, we don't care about that, we don't care about direction lock, none of that stuff. Now we're going to come in here to this stop and do the same thing, stop style all, And then we're not going to change this, but we do need to still put acceleration rate in here. That's just a natural function. They want to have that field filled out, right? So we're not going to change any of this, but we do want to have it filled out just to have it there. Okay, so now we have all our motion stuff in here. Now I want to change this temporarily. I'm going to change this to a 0, so I'm not calling for anything. I'm not calling for my motion to come on. Okay, now you can see from the rack that I don't have anything actually on right now, but watch. So if I move this, to a 1, okay, so now I've turned my servo off, right? Now I can put controls in here to say, okay, monitor the servo off. Like, let's just say, for instance, if I want to do that, I can come in here and throw some controls in here and drag this over here and say motion axis status, right? Just do some motion axis status, right? If that's not on, or if that is on, then we want to cut it off. And this would be if it's off. So what we'll do is we'll paste that in here, and we'll say if it's off, then we'll cut it on, right? And then we're not going to allow it to run until it's actually back on, right? And then what we'll do, we'll just paste those in right quick. Simple controls, so we're not over complicating things. I want to make this video kind of short and sweet. Again, the point of it is this indirect addressing. So again, once we have that here, we have that on. Okay, so now we come in here, we'll do a 2. So now our servo is on, and we'll do a 3, and our servo is actually running now. So now we have the servo running. You can see by this in process bit, and you can see by the servo actually running, that it is populating, right? So you can see that it is actually running and everything is running efficiently. So from that, we can actually change to a 4 and stop everything. Now we can come back to a 1 and cut everything back off, right? And this is free spinning now, right? So that's free spinning now. So I can cut it back on, go back, and then go to a 3. I'm just manually entering the stuff in like a temporary move, but you can see how this indirect addressing is working. It's just like I talked about, right? What you put in here is gonna basically direct to a portion of that array. So this array has 50 units we can point to, right? So if we go from 0 to 49, whatever number we put in is going to point to that DINT inside of that array, right? So that's that's exactly what we're doing in this principle, and I wanted to kind of give you an illustration of exactly how to do that, right? So we'll come in here and we'll do a 4, we'll shut it off, and we'll do a 1 again to cut it completely off, and then we have everything done. So that's in a sense exactly how indirect addressing is done. So when you come down to it, think about it like that. That's why I named it requested state, and then state machine, and then active state, right? So this gives you the indication and the better understanding about how things are actually transmitted and how things are pointed. This points to a portion of the 50 arrays that we put in. So we put in these 50 arrays. You watch me put in everything, and this is actually how, exactly how indirect addressing is done. So no matter what, if you see the statement just like we have here, if you see the statement just like this, right, I'm going to actually pull this down. We'll pull that down. If you see the brackets in here, whatever's inside the brackets, that's the number that's going to be pointing to the outside. This should be your array value, right? So it could be as big as whatever. They could have built it as big as they want, but in this case I just chose 50 DINTs just to give a point of an array value, right? An array of data is, again, that is going to be this data right here. So all this data that we have in here we're able to use, and we're able to use it efficiently, and that's exactly how we want to. So with all that said, I hope you enjoyed and learned quite a bit with the indirect addressing of this. Again, we did really simple servo controls. It wasn't a servo training. It was more of an indirect addressing training on how to use indirect addressing. So hopefully you got that and you understand how that transfers really well. And again, in this version 32 environment. So again, we are running an L73 with, when we upgraded our trainer, we flashed everything up and we have everything there. So we're going to start producing more videos like that. So I hope you enjoy this training, and we'll see you guys on the next one.